Okay, call this meeting to order by roll call votes.
Rottenhouse,
Here.
Fox,
Here.
Earl, here, Matt, here, Berglund.
Here. Reading of the district commission vision statement by myself. Our mission to challenge all students to achieve their full potential through engaging, responsive educational experiences that inspire innovation, critical thinking, and collaboration. Our vision to develop learners who are confident, compassionate problem solvers. Our operating principles: information for one is information for all. No surprises, verify facts, think ahead, disagree and explain your thinking, and then commit. Is there a motion to either approve or amend the agenda as presented? Is there any amendment?
I'd make a motion to amend the agenda. I know there was a county conference board tonight, so I'd like to have Dr. Phil just report on how that went, what they did. I'm sorry, what? There was a county conference board tonight at 5 o'clock.
I was at the hospital board meeting.
All right, okay. Then we'll skip it.
Their amendment, in my tax application letter, it says assessed value, which is a net taxable value, which is assessed value times rollback minus homestead credit.
So were the numbers still the same?
So the grand total levy increase proposed or from a recommendation will stay the same, which is the language.
Did we move this over?
Is the microphone on?
It doesn't sound like it.
Okay,
Look at these microphones are on.
yeah, okay.
So just say.
We'll just have to yell louder.
Yeah, so on a tax application letter, like assessed value, it's the net taxable value, but this does not change the increase or proposed increase in taxes for the grand total levy.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, approval of the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the board minutes as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. And it's approved. As we begin our agenda tonight, let me explain our process for public comment. On behalf of the board members, I invite any member of the audience to approach the microphone who has signed up on the piece of paper with comments about items of interest or concern. Please begin by stating your name and contact information. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes so we can keep the meeting moving in a timely fashion and allow others an opportunity to speak, as well as allowing the board to complete the agenda in a timely manner. Comments from the public are not limited to items or topics on tonight's agenda, but they are limited to matters within the board's authority. Please understand that we as a board cannot discuss items not already on the agenda. Iowa Sunshine Law prohibits us from having a discussion without the proper notice to all of the school district community that the issue would be discussed at tonight's board meeting. Also, please remember you are making comments in a public meeting. Should you make comments that the subject of the comments considers to be inflammatory or libelous, you as an individual may be subject to legal action brought by the subject of your comments. Thank you for your support of our school district. The first person is Mrs. Broin.
Coming in so late, I didn't think I would be speaking first. Is this on? No. How do I don't know. Good thing I haven't started. Is this
I
working?
don't think
now?
that's on. Oh,
Or no, they're-
so there.
Jose, how do we turn this mic on? Something's happening.
Is it leaving now?
No, I think it's feeding back. It's feeding back.
I was gonna say maybe I'll just come fill in that. You want me to do that? Okay, can you hear me? Okay.
So you can press it down a little bit. There you go.
Okay, good. Okay. Missy Fleming, parent and former school board member. I didn't prepare anything like I had previously, so I'm just kind of speaking from my colleagues. First, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for the questions that you asked in the fourth session and the discussion that you had for people. I think a lot of us really appreciated that. And, you know, administrators that were there as well. It was good to see some of the stuff we had and some of those were the questions. Second, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to the staff, because I know that this is not going to be covered in the buildings either right now, that is what's been going on. So just wanted to say a big thank you to them, and it's still continuing to be there for our students and showing up every day. So I also wanted to thank Carlene Stickman, who has since left the district, and for everything that she has done, not just with Project Rise, but with so many other students as well. I know that there's a lot of people here tonight, and also to Jane Caffrey, who's been affected by this as well. Publicly thank Justin DeWard for everything that he has done for this district and this community, and all the time and hours that he's put in. Sometimes we really don't appreciate what we have until it's gone. And I think that we are experiencing that, and I think we'll continue to experience that as we move forward. Last, I just want to say that cutting teachers should be the very last option ever that's looked at by a district. There are still other things that haven't been talked about at this board table yet, like really looking at an early retirement incentive and offering that to the 16 other eligible staff for early retirement. I think you said there were 18 at the board meeting or the work session, and only 2 have actually opted to take that. I didn't have to deal with this when I was on the board, but I know from talking to previous board members, that is something that was successful when they did. And there's still time to do that. So I just wanted to bring that up. The last thing, which is kind of ironic, but they're here tonight. The superintendent said on ABC News 6 after the first meeting in December that our enrollment issue is a pretty normal blip. And if that's the case, then I really hope that we're not going to do something so drastic. So again, just thank you for everything.
Patrick?
Thank you. Patrick Lumley, Charleston, 705 Fifth Avenue. I have a 6-year-old that's in Washington, and he loves school. He loves his teachers, in particular. Mrs. Stallsmith is probably the one that got him on the right path, and having a 6-year-old can be challenging at times. Still can't be on the school board. Thank you for stepping up and doing the job. At times you're making decisions on information that you are presented, and that can be difficult at times too. 2 questions I have is, one is understand certified enrollment drives funding. And I read in the minutes that there was another set of numbers for enrollment. From a parent and from a citizen, we could have clarity on what those certified numbers versus the enrollment out is. My second comment is challenges coming ahead. You've got legislature changes with the vouchers. So parents are going to have more of an opportunity for a choice. And a choice is either go to a public school, enroll out to another district, or have faith to keep placing the child in the Charles City School District. So for one, I would like to see what the long-term vision is based on where we're at today. As a parent, do I continue to put faith into the school district, or do I opt out and do I go to the public school system? Or do I even take another chance for option and roll out to another district? Those are the things I'd like to see. Thank you.
Mallory?
I'm Alan Chamber. I came from the last meeting for the leadership team for the high school. I just want to start, so like everyone else said, thank you guys, and it's hard decisions to make, and I can't even imagine what you guys are going through. I just didn't look to stay on the facts or anything. I just wanted to say how I feel, and I'm assuming I'm talking on behalf of the project, but I see a lot of the kids at the school. The impact that we're taking out on these kids right now is probably, sorry about that. With taking away teachers and advisors of Project Rise, I just want to say how I'm feeling personally. Dan Hacker, who's still at school, he's still thriving after school. I wanted to talk about Carly Sickman, the impact of losing her. I know that you guys are already over her, but we have already been a couple months in a row with Project Rise, and I know that you guys are pretty much keeping the program on. But I just want to know what you guys are planning to do. If we lose our second advisor, if you guys have anybody in mind, or if we have been. Because we've already had a couple of months in the road with the middle school leadership team, combining with the high school leadership team. And if we lose our second advisor, what's going to happen then? And we had a meeting with Mrs. Montes and Mr. Burns, the high school principal, and we didn't get as many answers as we thought we would. So we just didn't know if you guys could talk about that at all in the meetings recently. And we just want to know that we wanted you guys to know that the impacts that will be in the future next year. Obviously, we'll be losing one of our seniors this year, but the team will still be about the same size. So it's still going to be a huge impact if we do lose both of our advisors, and the impact that's going to have on all the kids in Charles City, because probably about 75% of our population in Charles City High School are all at-risk kids or kids that are in need, and Project Rise does contribute to a lot of that. So I just wanted to mention that.
No, I need that, Jose. We need you back off the mic a little bit.
Yes.
Jose, and it's too hot.
So do you want to turn it down a little bit?
Yeah, it's too hot.
I'm a Kenzie Blood, I'm around here, from last semester. I would just like to point out that a lot of us are probably feeling really scared for our school district right now. Again, I do want to thank you guys, because I know that this is very hard, and there's a lot on all of you right now. So I thank you guys for taking the time to hear all of us. But there's been a lot of talk about people leaving the school district, and that's where our issue is at hand, is students open enrolling or whatever the case may be to other schools. There's been so many people talking about leaving. There's been kids that have already left, and then the decision has not even been made yet. So I just ask that you keep in mind what's going to happen next year when more students leave. You continue to cut more tutors, or what happens then? That's been a big question that we've all had, and we didn't really get a clear answer on that when we talked to Dr. Lundquist, which is okay. We had a lot of questions, so there was a lot to cover. But we're all scared. This community does value a lot of the advisors that we have, and losing them would change it a lot. But just have to keep that in mind.
Let's do that.
Hi, I'm Jamie. I don't know if you guys remember me from last time I talked. So, I wanted to say thank you again for all of you coming out. I know you guys have a lot of hard decisions to make tonight, and I'm very thankful that you guys have been on the problem of this. So it means a lot to all of us. So I'm kind of going based off of what Mallory said. We might not all seem like at-risk kids to you guys. And yes, there are more at-risk kids in our building than just us, but our program has over 90 high schoolers, mentoring middle schoolers, and they're already talking about cutting that part out of our program. We are not just out here trying to have fun, trying to do this. In 2014, Dan Caffrey and Queen started a program with a student to help the rest of us out there, high school and throughout middle school. That was in 2014. And our program is thriving and building and doing everything we can for us. And there are so many changes being made to it because we have to fit inside this box that everybody wants to put us into. We're not box kids. We want to be outside the box, we want to be bright, we want to be out there in the world and making changes. Okay, you and I impact, what was it, 80,000 boxes of food on our day off. I remember we came here, literally all that in the morning and we see the calls on our day. How many kids do that? What programs do that?
Sophia Jensen.
Right, is good, take those. All right, Sophia Jensen is 41330. Just a couple of things I wanted to say tonight. First of all, thank you all for listening, dealing with all this. So my statements are regarding more of the music staff again. So if you don't know, I received all-state honor. I was first chair at all-state, which essentially means I'm one of the top high school hoop players in Iowa. And I just remember our director that day, I introduced myself and he asked me which private instructor I'd take lessons from. And I said, I don't take private lessons, I take lessons from Jacob Gadsden. And I also talked to my stand partner, who was second chair. She was also shocked, like most of those groups up there had private instructors. That is just a tiny portion of our talented staff. Another thing is kind of on that same deal. I also took a private vocal lesson from just a sample lesson from a college professor not too long ago. She also asked, "Who do you take from?" I don't take from a private instructor. I take from their servant. So that's speaks on its own. My next thing is at a previous meeting after the public comments, Dr. Lundquist assured everyone how maybe some people had misconceptions about this whole ordeal and assured everyone that the music programs and classes are not being cut. And I would just want to throw out that maybe some people had that miscommunication, but I know most of us did not. And that's not what we're trying to fix. We're trying to save the teachers. I stated twice at my last segment that it is not the existence of a classroom, it is the teacher, and that goes for all ages, all classes, all schools, everywhere. And I think that needs to be considered again. It is not the existence of a classroom, it's the teacher.
Lucy.
I was at the December meeting and I heard the passionate pleas of the students. And it's very impressive that any teacher can impact kids that positively. After that meeting, the board administrators got together and they really did due diligence in trying to find other places. When I went to the work session, they had changed their plans of cutting 2 music teachers down to 1. And this reminded me of when I was growing up, we traded cards quite often. But my father would always get the dullest, most stripped down, most basic card there was, despite all the crying and the begging from dad to get a bigger car, to get electric windows, you know, a tape deck, or at least automatic transmission. But dad was in charge of finances. He knew our budget and he made the decision. The cars that we got were very efficient. They got us to and back where we needed to go, and where we wanted to go. And in the silver lining, we learned to drive straight stick. Well, we kids adjusted. If it was too crowded, you just put someone in the back window. And we were quite capable of cranking down the windows. We didn't need to let things. And like I said, we learned to drive straight sticks without burning up any clutches. The lifelong lesson I learned that people need to live in their budget. Keep asking taxpayers for money is like just chinging into your credit card. The debt just keeps going. I know that if we cut 1 teacher, somebody might have to transfer. It's not happy to be transferred. I was transferred 5 times because of my area of teaching. But I had to adjust, and adjust I did because I wanted to do what was right for the students that they assigned me. I think that if you listen to the testimony of these kids, you know that any of these teachers would be capable of adapting and moving to a different area. And I know that all the taxpayers that I know will insist that you not raise taxes.
Comment that we have for tonight. Okay, so.
Thank you to everyone that spoke for public comment again.
Yeah, thank you. Now we have committee report. Facility.
The facilities committee met on Friday, January 13th at 4:30 at Dr. Lundquist's office. Those in attendance were myself, Mrs. Berglund, Superintendent Dr. Lundquist, Director of Operations, Mr. Mitchell, Director of Finance, Mr. Martin, and Lincoln Elementary School Principal, Mrs. DeBoer. The topic of that facilities meeting was the move of the 2nd grade from Washington Elementary School to Lincoln Elementary School to take effect in the fall of 2023. To accomplish that, there's actually some money that will need to be spent. Lincoln has a area of the building that has 2 stories, so they need to have a stair lift put in. Lockers will need to be put in to accommodate the number of students that will be moving over. We are looking at 5 classrooms that will need AV audiovisual material put in. The first 2 items, the stair lift and the lockers, one is $15,000, one's $25,000, which is a fair amount. The AV thing is interesting to me, and that's one of the topics over the next spring here. I will, as part of the facilities committee, want to learn more about. The school district right now spends about just shy of $17,000 a month on audio visual stuff for district wide. And doing what we're planning on doing, will raise it close to $19,000 a month. That seems like a lot of money, and so I hope as part of future finance committees, I learn what that's all for. That's a lot of AV stuff. After that move, the number of students in each building will be about equivalent. The number or the space used is about equivalent. So the move actually makes good sense from a standpoint of number of students that are served at each building, the teachers needed at each building, the teachers supervised by each principal will now be more fluid. And it evens the elementary grades out amongst the buildings. Mr. Mitchell also gave us information that the pool that was filled in is now completed. And they have just a few other projects that has to do with HVAC stuff at the North Grand building now. But it is being used. And then the principals at the elementary school are having meetings with the parents of the families involved in moving buildings to make it an efficient transfer of students. And again, that's supposed to start in the fall. That was our meeting.
Also, the busing was going to be more efficient.
But it will be also more efficient, correct? Yep. Yep.
Thank you. Okay, so negotiations and compensation, I'll start. Josh, you can fill in, okay? We're now at the point where we're meeting twice a month for negotiations and compensation, and we do an interest-based bargaining or interest-based problem-solving style of negotiations, where we try to come to consensus. The main thing we've been working on since the beginning of the year is our Schedule F, which is the extra pay that people get for coaching, choir concerts, orchestra concerts, things like that, drama, plays, things that are outside of the regular teacher contract that they have. So we have the athletic portion done. We're working on the drama and fine arts portion. Hopefully that will be wrapped up soon. Josh, do you have anything to add?
Well, we had a good turnout at the last meeting. Full room and a lot of good discussion about things that are coming up. We talked a little bit about insurance and where that's going to land. I don't think a selection was made, but there were 2 different options, I think, that were presented.
Yeah, our insurance is going up.
There's 3 options.
Oh, is it 3?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Health insurance, of course, is going up again, as you all know. So the discussion is between how much to raise what the teacher themselves pay.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we are going to go to staff adjustment. We have actually 5 because we had to put the not recommended one of teachers back because we had tabled it in January, so it had to be a part of tonight's discussion for that reason. And then the rest of them, I'm sure you all looked at. So,
If I may, Pat, I would, being that our responsibility is to balance the budget and we have a goal, $758,000 and for $758,470 that we needed to account for. One of these options does a good job with amendments. So option 3 would be mine, or what do you call option B? I'm sorry.
I can get that to you. Where is that? Yeah.
Yeah,
We gotta sort of wanna-
being that we had a responsibility to account for $758,470 deficit in the budget. One option that is now called option B. I'd like to present an amendment to that. First, I'd like to make a motion to strike the last sentence of where it says high school assistant principal. And then add the wording, a building administrator, if needed, after the teacher's salaries. and any retirements and state legislation for schools are settled. I would make a motion that we consider that.
Motion to second that option.
And who's that here?
Could you repeat that?
I'm going to.
All right.
It's been moved and seconded to go with option B, striking high school assistant principal and adding a building administrator if needed after teacher's salary and any retirement and state legislation decisions for schools are settled. Discussion.
So I guess, David, you can start. What was your thought process on, excuse me, amending it to add the retirement piece to the salary piece?
Oh, I think that there's enough between now and the end of the school year when these items are going to be settled. There's enough unknowns that some of those will affect the amount that's needed to be saved. So settling those before we do any more cut made sense to me.
Do you have the financial figure of what that estimate, what that blanks would be? So like 100 or 200,000?
Without that one?
Yeah.
118.
Okay.
Shy of 119.
So the contracts have to go out, what date, March 15th?
No, April,
Okay. And when's certified budget due?
April 15th.
Okay.
April 15th, and then, teachers have their contracts back to us by April 30th, with our automatically renewed. So I have them out to them 21 days before April 30th.
When do we anticipate knowing what we'll get from the state?
Maybe tomorrow.
They have 30 days after the petitions of the state to pass the legislation. They're currently 13 days into it.
And then you're going to put out the early retirement for.
Well, we already have,
So earlier retirement is currently out there, and they'll be back in February 1st.
I just wanted to address that, but we have already put an early retirement package out there. Two people have taken advantage of it. And additional people from the ones that took advantage of it 2 years ago that will be retiring this year. There are 2 additional ones. They need to have teachers or paraeducators. We actually included the paraeducators and secretaries in this one. And February 1st is the deadline for them to get the paperwork in for early retirement. So
Is that for this year or for next year?
they retired this year. We did not put out a 2-year extended retirement because our management fund is down and
Insurance is up.
insurance is up and we couldn't afford it. That's why.
However, one could retire, they just wouldn't get any of the package, right?
What?
If they're after February 1st and they decide.
Right, if after February 1st, they still can retire, but they will not get any of the retirement pension. The deadline for that is February 1st.
I didn't get it.
Okay. I think that it's a really good idea to leave some movement here and because we do have a lot of unknown, you know, with the state negotiations, the number of people retiring, the negotiations, what's going to come of that, you know, we don't really know. So I could do this. I also think that this shows support for the work that the administrators and our superintendent have done. No one likes cuts. I'm just gonna, I feel like we're between a rock and a hard place. And I haven't slept for 2 months, very well. I always said, and I'm gonna cry, I'm sorry. I always said when I came on the board that the one thing that I never wanted to have happen while I was on the board, that we have to make cuts, because these are my friends, these are my colleagues, these are people I've worked with, that I've laughed with, that I've drank with, that I've played with, you know, and cuts are not easy, and anywhere we cut would be affect someone somehow, somewhere. I think that the administration and Ann have worked hard. We received some sample scheduling that could happen if we cut a business teacher, even if we cut a music teacher. That doesn't yes, there will be some more responsibilities, but I would hope, and I think I know our staff to be professional enough that shouldering a little bit more responsibility will not affect their co and extracurricular activities. I think I know you well enough to know that that won't happen. And just because we have to do something now doesn't mean it has to be forever. And I know if you lose, I hear, you know, if you lose something, but I'm gonna tell you, we lost some counselors and they're back now. And I experienced that because I was the only counselor for 3 years at the high school. And that was no picnic, let me tell you. And yes, I had a lot of extra work to do. But now we're back, you know, to having those counselors. And so I think that the school system is responsive to the needs of the students, and they try to make those things come back as quickly as possible if they find that it's not working. So we have to rely on that, and that's all I can say, that this is just a really, really hard thing to have to even talk about.
So, Pat and Janice, you guys worked at the district for a long time. How many years have we not had an assistant principal at the high school?
Never.
So what
Marcia
is,
mentioned that last word set.
right, so what's different about this year?
We're not changing. I mean, that's a building administrator as a last resort. So if all other things aren't equal, nothing's. I mean, I'm hoping that that doesn't have to happen.
So what about the ones that have a direct impact to students? Music teacher, business teacher.
I thought I just addressed that we had seen some scheduling where that could work. And with some impact to students, but not as much as I think people think.
Okay. It'll be actually entirely possible and probable that it'll even be more efficient. More efficient.
Well, I don't support this idea of cutting music. In fact, I think it did increase the load. Back when I and Sue were teaching, back when we got the exemplary music program a long time ago, kids were having music at least twice a week, 2.5 times a week, I believe. My kids were privy to that. When I taught 7, 8, 9, we had 7th and 8th graders in general music. I had choirs, I had musicals, I had all that stuff. I would rather see that if we've got somebody only teaching half time, let's give her more to do. That we could be teaching more elementary music, because we should.
But right at this moment, that doesn't solve our budget issue.
Okay, well, I had a suggestion.
And I've heard from a lot of people that, in fact, more than I thought I would hear of directly, that raising taxes was not anyone's favorite idea. And, I understand that, and and that's what I mean by being caught between a rock and a hard place. I feel that as an elected member of this board, that I have to, think about every constituent that I'm serving. And, I also feel that raising taxes at this time is not something that I want to go for. I know that we need to replace the HVAC system at a minimum at the high school. It is god awful and it needs to be done. And I don't want to dip into our reserves or ruin our credit score, which is our solvency ratio. And then have something major happen at the high school and we all go, what can we do? What can we do now? So I'm just having a really hard time with that. Okay, go ahead.
Denise, what were you gonna say? You had said you had an option.
Well, the option that I suggested last time simply was that we not get rid of music and that we move ahead. With the hope that we're gonna have some people leaving. I mean, some kids out here saying half the teachers are leaving and the principals too. I think that's an idle rumor, but I wouldn't be surprised if there are people who will still leave that we could, I'm not in favor of raising taxes either. But I did suggest that last time that if these people who are so passionate about wanting to keep a music teacher, then they better be ready to pay 29 cents on your, is that what it is? I don't know, per thousand.
That's how you guys.
You know,
Adoption, there's one
I just-
42 cents, there's 128 cents.
Can I go back to when you talked about how many music teachers we have?
If you want to,
I just, how many were graduating in the graduating classes at that time?
not like,
I know
When I
every
started-
class had 200.
okay, when I started teaching here, okay, none of you were born. There were 250 kids per class. And the school that I was teaching in had over 800 students in it. But the years that I was talking about, when I left teaching, that was the year 2000. My situation was not replaced. It was cut back, put somebody in to do halftime band, halftime vocal, who he was certified, he wasn't qualified, and he knew it too. And the program for about 20 years was until finally we had a superintendent who came in and said, we need to get the high school program going again, because I know Sue had to take it as an involuntary transfer, and she did very good teaching 2 things at a time. So, you know, I come from a place that's personal.
I understand that. And my kids were in that school and
I know, they were good too.
So Janice, your solution would be to look at the tax option for it. Keep it up.
Not necessarily,
But there's a motion on it.
You have
Yeah.
a motion on the table for this one.
yeah.
You wanna
that's
call
true.
the question to vote on this one?
I'd like a roll call vote. Can we do it as amended?
Yeah, that's amended. Well, that's the motion, right? That's what I read. Okay, so, okay, I need to. The motion is to, adopt, to, try to get to the 758,000 or 50,000, what you want, what's on that?
$758,400.
Okay, $768,470. 58, you know what the number is. Through option B, striking out high school assistant principal and putting in a building administrator if needed after teacher's salary and any retirements and state legislation for schools are 7.
Berlin,
No,
Matt,
No.
Bill,
Yes.
Fox,
I'd like to hear other options still at the table. No.
Rogers,
Yeah. Are there any other options?
Well, so we have two other options that are right, option C and option D. So, looking at those two options. Let's talk about those, option C first. So Evan, can you talk a little bit about the difference between assessed value and appraised value?
yeah, so assessed value. It's exactly, sounds so assessed, you're gonna assess as your home, but the net taxable value is assessed value times rollback, which is 4.13% minus homestead credit fee and net taxable value.
So,
So if you had a home that's $100,000 and you did a 54% rollback, you're looking at $46,000 in net taxable value before the homestead credit. So therefore, your grand total tax levy in Chanel City, currently sitting at $13.05. That's a $13.05 times $1,000. Assessed value at 46 will get you your property tax on an annual basis.
so what I look at, my assessed value is not what I pay in tax, because there's calculations that determine.
It's net taxable value.
You have your taxable value that comes on your tax credit or your tax bill every year, so everybody should know that if they look at that.
So looking at option C and talking about the school's max, I'm gonna get the right term here. What do we call it? Spending authority. So talk a little bit about the school spending authority right now, sorry, what we have available in cash versus what that changes. You got a really nice letter, and I don't know if everybody had a chance to read it, that kind of talks a little bit about that.
Attached to the agenda.
Yeah, so every year school finance has what is called spending authority. Spending authority is kind of like a credit limit or a maximum limit on a credit card. So what you take is your per pupil rate, times the number of students you have, and that's your authority. Now, if you don't spend your given authority in a given year, you can carry that authority over. But like I said, authority is like a credit card where you have to have the cash to cover the credit card expenses. So currently in Charles City schools, throughout the years, we have carried over about $3.9 million in authority. Just because I have that authority, I can add on to my next year's authority to have additional authority, so an additional limit. I gotta make sure I have cash on hand to cover that limit. A current cash on hand in the general fund is $1.9 million, which currently gives me a financial policy rate of 9.79%. We will keep that around 10%, financial advisor want that around 15%. So therefore, my recommendation here in budget time, if we were to get into additional authority, would be to give a tax increase for option B would be 42%. Which came from the Department of Management with that additional 258,000 or where is that?
It's like.
Give additional $207,271.32 for a one-time basis. Now, that authority does not come back to all of years, so if we take my 3.9 and credit card limit or authority, that's now 3.7. State recommends we keep that between 10 and 20%, currently we're between 18 and 20%. Next year, we'd be down to about 15%, right on par. If we do not reduce those costs in the future, we run the risk of dipping that authority down into the 10% range. So for onwards, at some point, we would have to make up that authority and other additional expenses.
Thanks, Evan.
That makes sense.
And so we talked on Friday a little bit about the two numbers that you have here. And those are the high water marks, which is the guaranteed amount for sure, that we would have to do. But there is options within the budget, as you and I talked, you said there are some other things that you think you can manage to bring those numbers down. You didn't say I can cut it a certain dollar figure, but you thought that as things would work through, you would see potential changes or reductions. Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you guys remember back in December 12, we brought three options to the table, and none of them got us quite the $750,000 range. But we sat there as an administrative team, decided that $50,000, the wrong side could be made up in other areas. We're talking about schedule F. We're talking about maybe retirement we don't know about. We're talking about a replacement teacher, attrition. We felt that was a comfortable number that we could gain in a different area. Also, that's a comfortable number for me that we could possibly get in our reserves at maybe $50,000 range, a little bit covered. Now that's kind of where we decided to be 50,000 mark at. The things that are unknown is our special ed deficit, which is also covered by the tax reserve money, which is property tax. Every year, special ed is going to run in a hole. We cannot deny special ed services. Where does that stand today? I do not know. I cannot tell you. Within the year, wheelchairs can be bought, hearing aids can be bought, new students can come in, and I cannot deny those services. So that's one risk. Or again, forecasted that property insurance is going to go up. Again, it's an additional tax that I'll have to be able to cover the property insurance on that. So
What was the estimate on what the property insurance might go up?
I don't have those forecast numbers in front of me right now, so I should be hearing back in February, March on those forecasted numbers.
And what did we see last year? Was like a 10% or 15% increase, was
It
that?
was pretty substantial, $100-something thousand it went up.
It was 35%.
Oh, is it that high?
Yeah,
It was-
42% over, 5% property and like 7% workman's comp.
Similar this time.
They're expecting an increase in property, they're expecting an increase in workman's comp again. But I do not know the exact figures right now.
So looking at next year's property taxes, do we have any idea where valuations are gonna come? We assume they'll probably increase, right?
So we are taking my financial advisor's approach of a 1.25% conservative approach for increase in taxable valuation. I don't have for sure values, but I can use those.
And then, Dr. Lundquist, you'd sent out a really nice proposal that walked through a change in how we would do the business teachers and how they would restructure. I assume you had a conversation with those teachers and everybody was on board with that idea and thought it would work well.
No, I actually had a conversation with the administrators to have them prove to me that it's possible to schedule the teachers still meet the students' need. And the reason I didn't ask is because you can imagine what the answer might have been. If you're not clear, let's say December 12th,
Sure.
right? So as difficult as these decisions are, it's my job to ensure that we're fiscally responsible. And if we can cut teachers without impacting actual programming, that would always be my first choice. I have met with music teachers and I'm scheduled to meet with business teachers. And I'll tell you, Josh, I'm always wide open. I've become in very short order the most disliked woman in Floyd County. And all I'm trying to do is the job you hired me to do. For an example, if we were to make changes in the music program, the teachers that teach at middle school and high school would teach an additional class every other day. Or in a scenario I developed today, because I thought a lot about this, in fact, I thought of nothing more. One of the music teachers wouldn't have any changes whatsoever because he already has a large number of students. I wouldn't presume to make any of those recommendations without speaking with the staff.
in a collaborative conversation to come together and figure out how we can do this. So it probably seems funny that I didn't ask the teachers if they wanted to be cut, but I already knew the answer before I did.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions?
No, you cannot speak during that time.
I think that raising taxes.
Will, if you're like the board, presentation they make, I'll be happy to support. If that means we need to raise taxes to be financially responsible, I will do whatever I'm asked to do. As most of the room knows, I'm your only employee, and I serve at your privilege. So if there is an opportunity for reduction of a teacher, I would work diligently with the teachers to do the very best we can by both them and still honoring the great and amazing work that they bring to our students every day. And still maintaining our strategic goals and our plans to increase achievement across the board, improve facilities, and improve culture and climate.
I guess where I am at, I'm split, because we heard very much from students, from faculty, from alumni, from community members on their appreciation, their understanding, their support of the programs that we've made, that we are currently doing, their fear of what would happen. I also know that we represent a large constituent here in the Charles City Community School District that haven't expressed their voices. Whether they don't have an opinion, whether they have an opinion, but they don't know that their feelings would be heard. And so that kind of speaks to the property tax side of it. We know the bond did not pass. We did not get the petitions, or I should say the bond did pass. We didn't get the petitions to put it to a vote. Personally, I felt we needed to bring the petition to vote because I believe in the democratic process and I believe in the ability for our constituents to have a voice in that. I struggle with imposing a tax on something without them getting a voice. But I also have this other part of my head that doesn't want to see students directly impacted by teacher cuts. As Pat alluded to, there's not a win here. And I appreciate that the community hears that. I also recognize that this has been a very enlightening experience for students, for community members, for staff members, for our superintendent, for the board. We recognize and we appreciate that our community does express their opinion. They have emotions that they are sharing with us. But I think it also gives us the opportunity, what we've heard earlier was, what is our vision? And that's a question that I challenge all administrators and teachers to think about. What do you value for the district? How does that fit into a vision? We realize that Anthony's been here just over a semester. That's not very much time in the school world. But I think there's a bigger question that needs to happen about what our vision is and what we value. And right now it may feel to some that we don't value certain things because they are feeling, this direct impact. There's no win, but I like Janice's point, I like Josh's point, but then I also hear the fiscal responsibility piece, and I have to, I don't know, I know I'm gonna get blowback either way, so that's where I'm at, but that's kind of where I want to see the district going, is thinking bigger picture. What is our vision? What do we value? And how do we come out of this stronger rather than retaliating on each other and alienating each other in the process?
I think it comes down to your heart, in my case anyway, my heart feels one way and my head says something else. And, not sure I was elected for my heart. I think I was elected for my head, or maybe a combo of both, so. This is just very, very, very difficult, and, I think we all have experienced that.
I just want to make it clear, you guys are not voting on the tax increase tonight that comes during the certified budget process. My recommendation would be for a tax increase at that time. If you were to go with the options, C or D, choose to try enough cash to cover the
C or D.
C or D to cover the additional authority.
I think actually it's the only, we have to be responsible. We have to balance the budget. I don't think that raising income is always the way to do that, but by raising taxes to get income is not a good option. I don't, our school enrollment is down and it's going to stay down. We're not going to go back up to the high numbers when you were first teaching.
No, we have factors close since then.
Right. So we have to be responsible for what the environment within which we live right now. And we have to balance our budget, and we're going to have to do that going forward. And Pat alluded to certain things that need to be done at the high school, which we've known about since 2012. I'll talk about that later under item 9, but I just think that as one of the former teachers talked about, as things change, you change with it. And it's not fair to, in my mind, try to leave everything the same when the student numbers are going down. At some point in time, things have to change. And to me, it's always better to do that when you are presented with the problem, as opposed to later on when you're really up against the wall and forced to do it. It's just more fair to let someone know that the position does not exist, and then they can find something that works best for their family, as opposed to putting it off and putting it off. So.
Well, I know nobody wants their taxes raised, and most of us don't want our taxes going to private schools. That's another story.
That's a whole
That's a whole nother story. Is it proper that I will reintroduce the same option B with the same amendment?
Been moved and seconded to reintroduce the original motion. And B. Thank you. Striking out high school assistant principal and adding a building administrator if needed after teacher salary and any retirements and state legislation for school are settled. Discussion.
I'd call for a roll call.
Roll call vote.
Berlin,
No.
Matt,
No,
Fox,
Yes.
Schroeder,
Yes.
Ronhouse,
Yes. Motion carried 3-2. Financial report. December, January.
there's no memorandum.
December, sorry.
The one thing I really wanted to highlight is we've done some work in our activities department. We saw back in October, our general activities was actually a whole 70,000, and now we're only a whole 34,000. So we're climbing out in that amount of time, which is a positive thing. So thank you everyone for showing the gains. Activity funds are funded by directly revenue, so your data missions are part of that fund. So thank you guys. And good work for the activities department and the thing they're doing. Expenditures are what I expect for payroll, and our revenue is on track as well. Health fund is healthy as well, so. Any other questions?
No, you answered, thanks.
I need a motion to accept, I'll make a motion to accept the November and December 2022 financial report like presented.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to accept the November, December 2022 financial reports as presented. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Carries 5-0. Board comment.
Yeah, if I may, the director of operations, Jerry Mitchell, and myself walked around the middle school and high school on January 3rd for a couple of hours, and went down and looked at the old boiler. A lot of the infrastructure things that are known to be needing updated or replaced. And one of the options, one of the things we have been doing is repairing the roofs on the buildings north of the circles, I believe it is. He's done. I think we're about done with that activity this year.
Right.
And they'll have 20-year warranties on it. The circles can be done the same way in a structured fashion, like one a summer type thing. And there's commercial HVAC, heating, air conditioning that can be put on the ceilings in an enclosure. Each circle would need their own, and it would provide all of the air handling, heating, and air conditioning for that building. And then at that point, the boiler could be decommissioned. And so we're having another facilities meeting on February 7th. And to begin the discussion, and hopefully then what my goal is, as being on part of the facilities, is that Gary would look and begin getting estimates and more information for the board to discuss about getting the infrastructure that the high school needs repaired and replaced started, and a sequence for doing that.
Meeting of that, right?
HVAC, sorry, yeah. So we're looking forward to that. So we had a nice walk through the building. I got to see a lot of things, and I did go to the North Grand also on that day and looked at the pool. That's nice. That's a big area that has a lot of potential use. And so we will be discussing that also.
Did you get an idea of cost?
For the machine, the things that would go on the ceilings, it would be a little bit more expensive in the circles because they would also need ductwork. So in the $100,000-200,000-ish range per circle.
Did he talk about the
No.
fact that they're asbestos and all of that?
Yeah, yep. But right now that's it's solid. It does not need to be. It's not flaking. It's
Even
safe.
if they put in ductwork?
Correct. I'm told. But that's why we have a meeting.
Anybody else?
So I went to the basketball games on Friday, and those were fantastic games for those of you who were there. The girls played really well. They did a fantastic job. They played hard the whole game. They were up and down. They played with a lot of heart. It was great. And the boys' game was very good as well. They had a win over Waverly, which was great to see at home. Great game, very close, and it was really fun to watch. Everybody just get really excited and watch our teams get really together. And we didn't have any real issues with sportsmanship that I saw. Everybody was getting along really well and very good. So
And Dana
pep
shared
band was
with me,
great.
they did a nice job. Yeah,
Dana shared with me after the meeting that the refs complimented her on our student section, so that was.
that's great. Yeah, it was really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of young kids running around, so that was really good to see too.
It was fun.
Yeah, it's a good game.
Anybody else? Correspondence, miscellaneous.
I actually have an update report on our petitions. As you may have read in last week's paper, we did not achieve our desired amount, or required amount rather. So we will not be moving forward with a bond referendum at this time. there is potential for a fall referendum if that's the community's desire. Does let your board members know, if that's something that you want to move forward with, and I'll do your bidding. If need be, we can, continue with our initial proposal and our plan, which, as you know, would include a beautiful community auditorium as well. But for now, we're going to hit the pause button, and I'll have an article for the press in the near future that will explain that in more.
Okay. Meeting is adjourned at 7:29 p.m. The skipping for board members here, we might have.